folks for joining us. This interview today is with Eric Hafen, who has a long and storied career as an actor, director, and producer. And so we're going to ask him to share some of the stories from his life in the arts. But first, as they say in television, um, I'm going to let Todd Whitley, the executive director of the Masterwork Foundation, tell you about Masterwork.
Thank you, Joe. And for all of you new viewers, the Masterwork Music and Art Foundation has been around for over 60 years, supporting excellence in the arts. And today we do so by giving out a Premier Award, which is a $10,000 grant, and a number of community arts grants to people or organizations who serve the community directly. We also have this series, A Life in the Arts, where we like to celebrate people who have dedicated their lives to the arts in various ways. And so it is our great honor to have Eric joining us today and sharing some of his story with us. So thank you, Eric, and take it away, Joe.
You know, um, Todd says that it's about that you've decided to dedicate your life to the arts. There's another side to that, which is that you've figured out how to be allowed to do that without the world telling you, no, no, you don't, you shouldn't be doing that. So, and that's kind of that's in a way, that's what the series is about, is how do you do that? Because we hope that some of the people who see us will be people who are thinking about and desiring to do that. And we're hoping to show some pathways. And we've certainly got boy, have we got a diverse lot of different pathways. But yours is a theater. And so so when did you first get bitten by the bug?
Well, I was in seminary for the Catholic Church for about 6 years or so. And I went to Boston College. And while I was there, I've always loved movies. I've gone to the
Mm.
movies when I was high school, grade school, every Saturday afternoon at the movies, whether it was Hercules and Tarzan, or if it was 21 cartoons or whatever was playing, some John Wayne Western. But there was an audition at BC for the Edgar Allan Poe dramatization, A Dark of the Moon,
Ah.
which is based on Poe's Barbara Allen. A
Mm.
witch boy from a mountain came, opining to be human, for he had seen the fairest gal, a gal named Barbara Allen.
Yeah.
I'm in seminary. The role the director cast me was the boyfriend of Barbara Allen. And the premise of the story, poem, and the play is, as long as John Boy the Witch stays true and Barbara Allen stays true to him, he can remain human and they can be together and they can have a life together. Well, the conjure man didn't kind of like that idea. He wanted John Boy to come back and be a witch.
Mhm.
So he had the boyfriend of Barbara Allen rape her in a church.
Mm.
Now, of course, I have a collar and I'm in seminary, and I'm not about to tell my bishop that I'm in a play raping a woman on an altar in a church. But after I was finished with that piece, I really enjoyed the process.
Mm.
I enjoyed the line learning. I enjoyed the script analysis. I also enjoyed the camaraderie. So I kept auditioning the rest of that year, didn't get cast.
Mm.
The next year, I was cast in a production called Rainbow Jones
Okay. Don't
by
know that one.
Jill Williams, who's the wife of Joel Hirschhorn. You'll know that name from There's Got to Be a Morning After,
Yeah,
from
okay.
the Titanic. And we did that also at BC. Had a very good role there. And then I just started auditioning there. And then in the summer, I went to a couple summer places. Then by the time I left Boston College, I had a good resume under my belt. My senior year, I played Scapino in Scapino. I played Cervantes in The Man of La Mancha.
Mhm.
And when I did The Man of La Mancha, I was seen by Elliot Silverstein, Leonard Nimoy, Ed McMahon, um, Norman Lear. All these were friends of one of the older priests who was from Catholic University. And they
Mm.
all encouraged me to continue. So I pursued grad work and wasn't getting any financial support pretty much anywhere I applied. However, I did get financial support from the University of South Dakota,
Okay.
where so I decided to never been west of Pittsburgh,
Why
so
not?
that's where I'm from. So I thought, what the heck, you know?
Yeah.
So I went out there and I did some summer stock on the west side of the state at the Black Hills Playhouse, which is near Rapid City. And then the college was in Vermilion on the complete other side of the state.
Mhm.
And I picked up a master's there and then pursued from there.
Mm.
Went down to Delaware, did some stock work or attempted to do some stock work. The company folded, so I ended up doing lifeguarding work. Then went back
I've been there.
and then became a bartender for a while.
Yeah.
And then I started teaching. My undergrad was a special ed from BC. I technically have a triple major. I had a special ed, which is special ed, L-ed. And then I had enough credits to declare a theater major.
Mhm.
So I started to teach special ed for 2 years and got reduced in force both years. And then decided to choose the security of show business and
Uh,
sort of ventured into it as
yeah.
an actor and director. And I started a summer theater up there in Massachusetts, and which is still running
Mm.
all these years later. So that's when the bug actually bit, you know, when I was 18, 19 years old, when I shouldn't have been bitten by the bug.
Well,
I pulled out of the seminary my junior year
mm,
and pursued life, so to speak.
yeah. Well, how about this theater up in Massachusetts? Tell us about it.
Oh, it's kind of a very an interesting story. Uh, it was a Saturday morning, and I had nothing to do, and the girl that I moved back to Massachusetts for had gone. So I decided to take a walk and imbibe as I was walking. And as I approached, looking in the distance, looked like Oz in the distance. And I wasn't quite sure what it was, but it really stuck out. It was not something that I had seen in Gardner, Massachusetts, which is a furniture town, Chair
Okay.
City, Nicholson Stone, Conant Ball, etc.
Hmm.
And as I approached, I noticed it was a community college, the Mount Wachusett Community College.
Okay.
Saturday around 10 o'clock in the morning. So I wandered onto the campus, and there's a door, and I opened, it was unlocked. So I walked into a gorgeous lobby, beautiful theater lobby, big round box office in the middle, plenty of wall space, floors you could eat off of because it looks like no one had ever walked on them.
Mm.
Then I see the words auditorium. So I walk in there, open a door, unlocked. So I
Okay.
open the door to the auditorium and I look to the right and it says tech booth. So I turn the knob once again. So I go up the steps and there's this, and again, at the time, was a 4 preset memory light board and a
Oh,
sound system that still had plastic on it. So I
okay.
thought, I think this is interesting. So I went back downstairs and opened the inner doors from the lobby. And there's a 554 seat theater, a stadium seating, beautiful,
Hmm.
gorgeous theater. Walked down onto the pit, stood on the apron, walked onto the stage, big stage, must be 35, 40 across by about 40 deep, had about 10, 15 line sets. And I'm wandering around backstage left, and I see these buttons, and I push a button, and the pit goes down. It's a hydraulic lift pit.
Wow.
So so I
Really?
jumped on.
Yeah.
So I jumped on to ride down. And underneath open doors, there's a whole room under there where an orchestra could sit, prep, get ready. So I got back on, rode back up, went backstage, opened these enormous doors, big doors. And there's a tech shop with all kinds of wood tools and electric wood and a big pallet of casein paint. And I'm thinking to myself, do they use this place? So I
Well,
left the tech booth, walked down the hallway, and there's a green room, actually green, beautiful. Walked down 2 dressing rooms, left and right. Each would hold maybe 10 people, I guess, but
hmm.
well designed. Walked back up the back stairs, and there it says rehearsal room. I opened that door, and there's a beautiful, big, beautiful floored rehearsal room with mirrors and dance bars. And I kept thinking, I'm only in the town a year, I said, I got to get to know this place.
Right.
Well, as should happen, I was heading to leave, and security opened the door and said, "You got to go."
Right.
So
Yeah.
I left, and I thought, I got to figure out how to get in here. And I waited until the academic year started, and I noticed an audition to play Captain Blunchley in Arms and the Man,
Hmm.
and I was given the role. And then I was given the role of the Music Man, Harold Hill. And then I decided that, you know, I'm going to make myself happy here, and I'm going to try to make a summer theater go. So I
Okay.
invested my own money, opened with The Odd Couple, as everybody would do, did
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
made a little money,
Hmm.
then decided to do I do, cast
I,
myself.
yep. Keep with those small casts.
Yeah, and made very, very good money.
Hmm.
Then decided to reinvest and did 10 Little Indians, which I guess now it's called And Then There Were None, because you
Right.
can't use it.
Right.
And that did well
Well,
as a
and
thriller.
there's an even nastier original title for the
Yes.
so that'd really get you in trouble, right, if you do that.
Yeah.
But
And that did well.
yeah,
And again, it's 554 seats. Now I say do well. We're drawing 200, 250, because they don't know who the hell I am.
right.
And then I wanted to do A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum and really go out with a splash, and just didn't have the money for that.
Hmm.
So I decided to do Little Mary Sunshine,
Ah,
which is
okay.
the operetta spoof of Nelson
Yeah.
Eddy, Jeanette MacDonald.
Yes.
And that was less expensive because the royalties at the time were controlled by a company out of New Hampshire, and costumes were also controlled by them. So you got sort of a package deal.
Okay.
And it went well.
Hmm.
So I went back to teaching my second year, and throughout the course, I thought, I'm going to try to make this go. So I reached out to a lot of the wealthier people in Gardner, Mass, mostly the presidents and the CEOs of the various furniture companies. And I formed a board,
Hmm.
and we then pursued to make theater at the Mount an institution. And I was there for 8 years, eight
Hmm.
summers, I should say. I decided to move to New York because I wanted to take it to the next level. My goal was to have that become a Berkshire or something to that extent, because Gardner was dying. The furniture business had moved to North Carolina.
Yes.
Simplex time recording, which was one of the major industries in Gardner, went down, so to speak. Chris Watkins just folded it. So I thought, well, let's make this a destination. We'll have the
Right.
theater be the professional destination. It's plenty big enough to support it, plenty of parking, gorgeous facility. They would need to encourage restaurateurs to come in, encourage arts
Right.
and crafts company, almost like a Weston, Vermont, or to a
Oh,
certain
well,
extent, Williamstown.
I was going to say like Williamstown. Yeah.
Yeah. But I couldn't get the mayor bought into it, and we started, and then he ran for governor, and then he ran for senator, and he left the town, and I just couldn't get the town to really get behind me.
Right.
So I turned the theater over to the college,
Hmm.
and they made it an academic program and an avocational theater. And now it's been running now for over 50 plus years,
Wow.
and still running. And it's doing what it was intended to do, only on an amateur level.
Yeah. But no,
But
that's yeah. Well, listen, this is it sounds like some of the stuff that I did in my I looked up when exactly was the last time I actually stepped on a stage or directed anything, and it was 1984.
mm,
So it's a while ago. But no, but it's wonderful that that's continued.
yes,
Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
unfortunately have participated in the disassembly of a number of theater plants over the
Mm.
year, and I don't enjoy that part, the taking the crowbar to take the stage apart. But so I don't know, so from there, having left there to go to New York and
Mhm,
uh,
mhm.
make your career, uh, where'd you go from there?
Well, throughout those first 7 years, while I was still living in Gardner, I did my winter stock.
Right.
Now it's no longer called that, but the fall work and the spring work primarily was with the Worcester Foothills Theater Company.
Okay.
It was Mark Smith, who, God bless his soul, was the guy who really turned me on to the profession,
Mm.
and praised me, my acting ability, but also told me eventually I should be a producer. And also while I was there, I worked for the Little Theater Stage Company, small little space, and that worked out rather better, especially when I moved to New York. They had a play called Crossing Niagara,
Okay.
and the role I played was Jean-Francois Gravelet, or Blondin, which is the man who you would cross Niagara Falls. And he would do tricks. He'd hop on one foot, he'd go out in the middle and fry an egg, and then he would collect pennies before he went out. And then when he crossed the water, he would collect pennies over there, and that's how he made his money.
Mm.
Well, in real life, he was challenged by the press to do something very daring. So he had his manager, uh, and he said, "I'm taking you across on my back." And the manager said, "Oh, no, no." So he got the manager liquored up and put him on the shoulders and took him across, collected the money, brought him back, and fired him. But in the play, it's a fan who challenges him
Okay.
to carry him across. It's a two-hander, and it was directed by Edgar Lansbury, which really helped me get situated in the city. That's Angie's brother,
Right.
and he also was the primary producer for Godspell.
Mm.
So I moved to the city. When I got to the city, I realized I had a very good reputation up in the Boston area. A lot of press. If I walked into an audition, there was special attention paid. I mean, it's very flattering. Then I moved to New York City, and
Nothing.
I start all over again.
Nothing.
I just got to fun.
No.
So my day jobs, I had a couple, and then
Mm.
I finally settled into a great day job. I worked for Chanel, the perfume
Okay.
company,
Okay.
and they taught me how to do makeovers and made me a fragrance and skin specialist. And I had all the high end stores. I had the Saks, Bergdorf Goodman, Barney's,
Hey,
Bendel's.
that beats waiting on tables.
Oh, oh my gosh. And the schedule was great. It was just so simple, Joe, because as long as I didn't go away to do anything, Valentine's Day, Easter, Christmas, Mother's Day, I could disappear for 2 months and come back knowing my job was there.
Mm.
So it was a really great day job. And then, of course, from there, I just started to audition. I was fortunate to get an agent, and he put me out mostly for commercial work. I booked some commercials,
Hmm.
did some soap work. Didn't really get well. I did play an off Broadway and two off Broadway gigs. I never had the production contract to play the Broadway side of it,
Hmm.
but I did do a lot of. I did some dinner theater,
Hmm.
both in New Jersey and out of New Jersey, and some regional work. I did some real nice work down at Cape May Stage, not Cape May Stage, Cape May, but the Eastland Company
Right.
down in Cape May. And the rest, as an actor, I just kept going. But one morning, well, not morning, I got back from a tour. I was playing Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music, and my agent had an audition for me that Monday. And I remember rolling over to my wife on Sunday morning and saying, I just don't want to memorize lines anymore. I just didn't want to do it. That's as simple as that.
So
And
now
she
you
said,
get to
okay.
make other people memorize lines.
Now I get to make other people.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So I did go to the audition on that Monday morning just to please
Yeah.
my agent, and I got called back, but I didn't get the gig, and that's just fine.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I found commercial theater in Six Flags.
Hmm.
I was the artistic director of shows for Six Flags in primarily in New Jersey. We would put stunt shows and musical reviews and that kind of thing in there. So I learned a little bit about the commercial end of theater, which helped
Mm.
me as I developed into a director and producer. The importance of controlling budgets, not so much expenses versus revenue, but controlling budgets in the sense of, as one VP once said to me, we want this stunt show, Eric, is 1.6 enough? And all my life, I'm struggling to raise 250.
Right.
And that was a lot of fun.
Mm.
If Time Warner hadn't sold Six Flags, I'd probably still be there.
Mm,
I really enjoyed that operation. They sent me down to Disney, so I learned about moving people
mm.
and that whole and the reason that there are shows. The reason there are shows is so you can pull 3,000 people into a space, which takes 3,000 people off the lines and allows them to let in 3,000 people. So you're actually literally just
Right.
moving people. A very interesting concept.
Yeah.
And
One of,
then good.
no, I was going to say one of our first interviews back a couple of years ago was an old friend of mine whose name he goes by R.J. Lewis, and he did wonderfully on the cruise circuit, which
Yeah,
is the same
sure.
kind of thing, which is yeah.
Yeah, I
And
know. Yeah, I'm a music director friend of mine, Nick, who worked for me many years at the Bickford. He now does that.
mm,
I don't know which line it is. He's been doing it for 4 or 5, 6 years now. He goes to Florida, he rehearses them,
mhm.
and now he stays on land. But those first couple of years, he'd go out and he'd be out there for 12 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the contract
Yeah.
was, and he'd come home.
Yeah, well, no, RJ was doing it was a Stephen Schwartz sort of melange of lots of Stephen Schwartz songs called Magic to Do, which they may still be doing on some ship
Yeah.
somewhere. But but he's also a magician, so that was a good
Oh,
gig for
that's that. Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
but anyway, so what are you up to now?
Well, let's just say I've gone from a professional actor to professional directing, which I
Yeah.
sort of still do, and producing. I've run 3 different theaters. I recently was the artistic director at the Bickford Theater, which is in Morristown, New Jersey. I was there for 17 years. It
Mm,
was a regional theater, full
yeah.
equity house. And then the board decided they no longer wanted to produce professional theater. So we parted ways. And I was looking for some work, and a friend of mine said that the borough of Madison has a brand new space which was designed to be a performing space, but they don't have anyone to make it a performing space.
Right.
So I schmoozed a bit with the mayor and the council there, and worked very well with the director of geez, what's her title? She'll shoot me. Director of development, I think. That's not the correct title, but delightful person to work with. She hired me part-time, and
Hmm.
I was the director of arts. So my job was to develop this wonderful space. And I always said it was the most beautiful conference room you would ever see. But it was designed to be a performance space. There was a small dressing room, would hold about 6 or 8 people. There was a box office area,
Hmm.
bathrooms, etc. Didn't have any lights, didn't have any sound. So that's what I had to bring to it. But it was part-time.
Right.
So that wasn't going to work. And my wife raises miniature schnauzers. Not that you need to know that, but you do.
Okay.
One of
Yeah.
our owners, was an adjunct at Union at the time, Union County College. And he said, "Why don't you throw your resume over there? They're always looking for adjuncts." So I did that, and I interviewed, and they gave me courses in public speaking. Gave
Okay.
me 2 courses my first year here, first semester here.
Hmm.
Second semester, they gave me 2 more. And then from there, they gave me 3 each semester. And this was up until 21. Admin liked me, students liked me. I guess I'm good at what I do. I didn't know I had it, but I do. Then they created a theater academic specialist position and made me the academic specialist in theater arts. So I've been here full time since July of 2022. The college itself, in that brief time, has undergone 3 name changes from Union County College to Union College, and now it's UCNJ, Union
Union.
College of New Jersey. Uh,
Okay.
and so that's what I do. I'm here. I'm responsible for teaching 3 courses each semester, 2 actual courses face to face, and the third course is a production of some kind.
Mm.
But of course, ambitious me, it's not one production each semester; it's 3 or 4.
Well,
So,
of course.
so that's what I'm doing, and yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I guess the last question I have is if people want to keep track of you and know what you're doing and or get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
best way is probably through LinkedIn or through Instagram. I do have a Gmail email account that I don't usually use, but it's there because at some point in time I had to have a Gmail.
Okay.
Or they can reach me at the college, which is eric.hafen, Hafen, at ucc.edu.
Okay. Well, so this has been a wonderful. We serve on a board together. You are one of Masterworks' own, and you're one of the people who helps us keep the whole thing going. And I this has really been wonderful because, when you sit on boards, if you're vaguely aware that I knew that you were a theater person,
Mhm.
but this is really great to really get your story, and you've done that. You've done the thing, the title of the web series. It's you've created a life in the arts.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's been 40 plus years, gone from project to project to project. And I always tell young artists or actors, designers, singers coming up, never burn a bridge unless you deliberately want to set it afire. Because
very good advice, because you never know where the next thing is coming from. And
absolutely. And
it's
when you really get to
probably
this
not the
level, it's
thing
very
you
small.
think.
No, exactly. And it's a small world. I mean,
Oh,
it
very.
seems like, I mean, that's still, although as Stephen writes this, the stand-up comics, it's a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it.
True enough. Well, listen, this has been wonderful. And
Thank you, Joe.
so we're going to move on because Eric's going to provide us with some pictures and highlights of from his life in the arts, and we'll go on to that next. In the meantime, though, I want to just remind everybody, if you enjoyed this, if this kind of content is something that you would like to continue, please, as they say in the webinar business, like, comment, subscribe. So anyway, thanks very much, Eric.
My pleasure, Joe. Thank
And
you.
Thank you, Eric.
okay.
Every so often at the Bickford, I would have special concerts and old rock concerts, new concerts. We did a great doo-wop concert. Well, this particular one that's John Sebastian. He came in and did just a delightful concert. Did all of the stuff he wanted to do. He went all the way back to his early days, and of course, he had everyone in the audience sing "Welcome Back, Kotter" instead
Of
of him singing
course.
it,
Of course.
which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Very very personable. Lives in northern New Jersey sometimes. I want to say Sparta, but I'm not quite sure if that's what it is.
Okay. All right. Well, here on that.
Bria Schoenberg. Bria Schoenberg is already one of the most popular jazz trumpeters and vocalists in the world. I actually gave her her debut at the Bickford. She to this day remembers that and had come back and done two fundraisers for me because of that. I would not be surprised that her name eventually gets right up with Satchmo and Dizzy.
Okay.
And she's not bad on the eyes.
Okay.
This is my third venture into Gilbert and Sullivan.
I was going to say you could tell right away.
Yes, yeah. I had ended my first seasons at Theater at the Mount with a Gilbert and Sullivan. So we ended, of course, with the Mikado, and I played Coco, and then did the Pirates of Penzance, and I played the Major General. And then we did HMS Pinafore, so this is Sir Joseph Porter.
Yes.
There's a fascinating story about this gentleman. His name is Wally Abdul. He's from Pittsburgh, as I am. Wally is one of a handful that are allowed by the August Wilson Foundation to do the one-man August Wilson show. And he came to Union County College and did the performance for us as a friend. But the story really is that when I was a counselor at Berkshire Camp decades ago, Wally was my camper.
Oh. Okay.
So we hooked up again when I was in Pittsburgh last time, and he came out, and I'm going to be going back to Pittsburgh again in January, and I'm hoping to look for. He's constantly working. He's one of the most working actors in the city of Pittsburgh.
This is dramatic.
Yes, this was at the Worcester Foothills Theater Company when they were around. This is Wyman Kane, very well-trained old Vic actor. And this was Ira Levin's Dr. Cook's Garden.
Okay.
Wonderful thriller about a doctor who is killing off sick people mercifully.
And this is a romantic scene.
This is a romantic scene. This is with the East Lynne Company of Cape May, New Jersey. This is a play called Jealousy. East Lynne dedicates themselves to theater prior to 1924. So this is a soap opera type drama, early 1900s. It's called Jealousy. And this is with Paige Allen, who is still to this day a wonderful friend of, also a working actress, still working very, very, very hard and working a lot. This is one of my stints, terrible picture because it's so old, but terrible. One of my stints as Henry Higgins. I've played Henry Higgins numerous times in my life. And it's probably one of my favorite roles. I had mentioned earlier in our interview with being directed by Edgar Lansbury in Crossing Niagara. And I didn't realize I had a copy of the playbill. So I just scanned a copy of the playbill for you. Once again, it's about Blondin, who Jean-Francois Gravelet, who was a tightrope walker who went across Niagara Falls on a tightrope. And in the play, he is challenged by a fan to take him across on his shoulders, and he succeeds and does it. This is back in college. This was probably my second role, still in seminary, but this was Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge. I played the role of Rodolfo, and the director did their best, and makeup did their best. That's my hair. And they did their best to make it as blonde as they could so it would fit in with the text. And they didn't quite succeed. The odd story about this play was at the end of Act One, Eddie Carbone, who's a gentleman sitting down with his back to you, Peter Allegra, great man, but a big muscle-bound guy playing Eddie, the longshoreman. They have a boxing scene, and Eddie is going to teach Rodolfo how to box. Well, throughout the whole fight rehearsal process with the director, it was wonderful. Peter would feint with his left and then throw his right. When he'd feint with his left, I'd lean in. When he threw his right, I'd lean back. And everything would work very smoothly, and it worked beautifully until opening night when he didn't feint left, and I leaned into a right hook. And it was a little staggering. And then, of course, at the top of Act Two, there's a kissing scene. So it was all painful, but it was worthwhile. That's Ellen. Ellen went on to Catholic University to be a very, very big star. Then she gave it up and became a teacher.
I was going to say I remember the spray hair coloring
Streaks and tips.
Streaks and tips, and it I think Robert Klein, the comedian, used to say that a 3-year-old would not be convinced by this, but
well, I always tell my students that nowadays I dye my hair white.
There you go.
So this is I was asked to return when Boston College was opening their brand new Robesham Arts Center. They asked me to come back and play King Arthur in Camelot. And I, of course, said, yes, I would love to do that. A, I would love to do the role. And B, I'd love to help BC do what they need to do. And the director in the center, Paul Marcoux, called and asked me and told me about it. And then about 2 weeks later, he called and said, Eric, I can't have you play Arthur any longer. And I was very disappointed. But he then said, but I'd like you to play Lancelot. And I thought, okay. He says, because we got Gordon McCrae to play Arthur. So there's Gordon on the left with Paul in the center and myself. And Gordon was a wonderful man to work with, as I mentioned, I think in my interview earlier. A very, very nice man. He just every so often, he'd take a little mental trip and I had to bring him back down.
Yes, remember the cue.
And if it isn't there, find it for him.
Or say something else.
At the Bickford, we had many fundraisers, and I tied with a gentleman named Steve Kantrowitz, who was very helpful. Steve worked as my marketing director but in his prior locations, he would do these star-studded Broadway fundraisers. And one of the fundraisers we had, I said, you know, I really would like to get Cuccioli to come in and sing for us. So he reached out to Bob, and then Bob got back, and he came and did a wonderful fundraiser with us with a bunch of other singers. Gay Willis was one, Julie Waldman was one. And the best thing about this little picture here is that from this picture, we became good friends. So now I'm trying to get Bob to come and speak to my students at UCNJ. And every time I ask him, he's working. Isn't that a damn shame?
It's just how life is hard.
Probably one of the fun characters I've ever played. Not sinister, not crazy like they're doing now on Broadway. This was the MC in Cabaret with the Worcester Light Opera Company. I really wanted to play the truth of the original, not necessarily Joel Gray's original, but the original storyline, where he is really oblivious to what's going on.
Right.
Or, and at the end of the play, we hint that he did know what was going on, but he didn't care.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun to do. We had 8 sold-out performances.
Okay.
I have waited, by this time, I waited, almost 10 years, I guess, maybe even longer. I've always wanted to produce Accomplice. It's a phenomenal thriller, but it does involve quite a bit. Hang on, I'm just going to turn my phone off. Thank you. Accomplice is a wonderful thriller. It's probably one of the best thrillers going, but it requires a lot of technical expertise. So I reached out to Rupert Holmes again early on, just pretty much when it was ready to be released. I said, I've got to do your play. I want to do it. It's great stuff. And I waited and I waited, and I finally got the Bickford to do it. And Rupert, on opening night, came out for it and was just delightful. Absolutely adored the production. Thought we had handled it exceptionally well, which was nice to hear from him because he's already seen it so many times. Initially, when it played on Broadway, he was in the audience every night. There's a part at the end of the play where the producer, director, or playwright must appear. So I ended up appearing as the artistic director of the Bickford. Then in the background, you can see some of the productions that we did at the Bickford. The far left is I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change. The one with the gentleman bending the woman over, that's the story of Mickey and Jean. That's Richard Dresser's play. And then right off of Rupert's head is Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill with the late Suzanne Douglas. That college, Theater at the Mount. This was the 3rd play that I did with them. The first one I don't talk about because it's not even on my resume, but I had to get into that college, as I explained in the interview. I played the rabbit in Winnie the Pooh. It does not exist anywhere in my life except in my head.
Okay.
And then I did Blunchley in Arms of the Man, which I know I mentioned. And then they cast me as Harold Hill in The Music Man.
Okay.
The largest network television show I did was an NBC special. The full proper name is running out of my head, but it's something to the effect of the history of miracle cures and healings. And I was cast as the warlock, the villain, for lack of a better word, who burned witches.
Okay.
And this was a shot by the makeup artist just prior to us going on to set. And the set was very interesting. It was a lot of fire. I'd never been around so much fire before. But it was a fun little piece. It ran once, and then it reran again in the summer a while back. I don't know if it's available anywhere right now.
Yeah. And
this is the logo for Theater at the Mount, the theater I started in Massachusetts. I included this because with Theater at the Mount, I literally created it from the ground up. I worked with a graphic artist to design this logo, which they're still using today. I raised the board, I raised the money. I chose the shows along with 2 colleagues that helped. And I just wanted to share that with you. If you ever see this logo anywhere, you'll know what it is.
Okay. And there is the
And this
theater
is
at
the
the Met.
outside of it. Yep. This outside was redesigned about 5 years ago. I've been out of there by then. But the theater has become so popular that the college and the state invested in transforming the outer portion of the theater and also the lobby because it's the 554 seats are selling out every time they do a performance.
That's okay. And that's our show.
And that's my life in a nutshell.
Okay.